Hello and welcome to the unfortunately very crude filming of my sketchbook. Due to COVID-19 I cannot hand it in, so this is my response to that, I guess. When I first started thinking about the project, we were given guidelines that we had to basically pick what type of art we wanted to make. Initially I was really drawn to socially engaged art, and I basically went through a list of all of the different questions that were running through my head, which is what these pages are. It's literally a running commentary of what I want to do. Pretty early on I thought I would want to go into socially engaged art. It's something I've been really encouraged to do by the lecturers and something that I just find I'm really drawn to. The artists that I care about and I'm inspired by are always people that are working in social situations. It's very much driven by people and the human aspect. So that is what these pages are. Just gonna throw it out there now that I am not sure how long you need to see the pages to be able to read them, so please pause if you want to read a page, I guess. This is new. Going over different types of books, and well, artist book is another one of the options that we were given. This is also a concept that I absolutely love the idea of, as it allows art to be more accessible. It's getting out of the white cube, and that is something I absolutely hate. I rarely make work to go in a gallery space purely because I do not think that that is where art thrives when it's relating to people. That is where the whole idea that art is unattainable, and that's why it causes societal boundaries, and it's just, oh, it's a lot, and I'm not going to go into a rant for it. But this is basically what an artist book is, and then all of my thoughts on it. Open artworks, again, more of explaining and trying to decide what I wanted to do at the beginning. And again, I realise now that after actually writing everything, all of the marks I make probably don't make every page overly legible. I promise that you can read it, it just, you have to be rather close up, which for these purposes, if you had it in your hands, would work wonderfully. This works less so. At this stage I started to feel really overwhelmed. As you can see by, these are little characters that I often use when I'm sketching. You can tell I'm stressed if I'm drawing. That is a fun trait of mine. So what I did was set out a game plan. Things I wanted to do, things I wanted to remember, and where I wanted to go. So what I decided to do was I wanted to try and continue on from my previous semester's project. Despite the fact that that didn't go very well, I think it's because I got really lost and I was trying to be too vague and be too broad, and I really needed to narrow down on what I wanted to do with it. So it was starting out with boundaries and looking into them in every sense of the word, which I still am doing within my artwork. I've just really narrowed down my approach and delivery, and I'm able to be a lot more direct with what I'm meaning, rather than just being like, oh, vague, for just loving the idea of vagueness. That's pretty much what I was doing last semester, and I got really lost, so that clearly did not work. These are drawings I was doing around the studio, people I'm comfortable with, people that actually interacted within this project, and this is again just running commentary in my brain. And some more running commentary. I actually really enjoy these pages. These are the types of things that I love as pieces, and the like capturing people is something that I really enjoy and is very, very common throughout all of my artworks. These are essentially bullet points. What I did was I decided that if I was going to look into people's reactions and how they interpret different things, I needed to have a better understanding of what had been looked at to do with art, basically. So it's semi-psychology based, but it's all from a very wonderful book, and it's comprised of a bunch of different essays which I have gone through and annotated. All of the numbers match up, and then later on in the sketchbook I do actually go through and give more of an opinion on some of them that I found particularly useful. Again, if I was able to hand this in properly, you would be able to go through them all. But unfortunately, that is not a thing. Again, more running commentary of my mind. I'm not sure whether these pages are overly useful to someone viewing my work, but when I'm making it, these are the pages that I find most useful. I tend to just scroll and scroll and scroll and scroll and scroll, writing, because I use my sketchbooks almost as a diary, I guess. I like to just have all of my thoughts down so that I can revisit them, because I am a scatterbrain, and that is, I guess, how I work. So what these are actually in the wrong place, lovely. These are different articles that I found online that basically, this one helped me decide that I actually did want to do socially engaged art. This is kind of how you do it, I guess. It's really interesting. It's very small writing, you're probably not going to read it, which is unfortunate, but I can't do anything about it now. It goes through basically how you make it and different types of socially engaged art, different socially engaged art that is currently within the world, snapshots of it, so different artists in different locations doing different things, and seeing just the diversity of each of these different artists and each of the different projects and who they were involving and what they were trying to do within the world just made me really excited that this was something I could actually get involved in, that it was, that like art I make might actually make a difference in the people's lives that I speak to, and like that felt really empowering as a lowly student, that I would actually go and speak to someone and they might think about it and it might change the way they perceive the world. So going on to, again, more socially engaged art. This is a very good essay, we liked this essay. I come back to this later on in the sketchbook. Again, it's just going on about different parts and different projects and different people, and whilst this might not be very relevant to my end product, this is what really helped ground me. This is what I lacked last time. I didn't really do much research into the type of art I was doing because I didn't really know the type of art I was doing. I tried to do land art, but it wasn't land art, and I tried to do performance art, but it wasn't really performance art because it didn't really have to be that site specific. What it really should have been was socially engaged art, so I've educated myself thoroughly. This is around the time when I had my first one-to-one with David. We spoke about lots of different things. I spoke about the fact I was writing poems and generally just getting to grips with what type of thing I wanted my project to be, really, and I always feel such a link to the outside. I'm drawn to it. whenever I speak to anyone about my work, it's always imagined outside. And I guess that's because I live in the countryside. Like, you will see the surroundings that I'm in later, and it's hard to get off of your mind, basically. I'm rambling and this is going to be terrible. So we got onto the subject of being free, and I mentioned kites, and David loved this idea, so I thought, right, kites, how can we incorporate kites and bridges and fences? And then it got me thinking of whether I really did need to keep the fences, or whether I could just speak about that within my work and reference it but move on from them. Because as much as I do love them, I feel everyone in Grays' last semester, I really went ham on the fences, and I feel everyone's been desensitized to them. So as much as they're like really powerful imagery and I feel I'm gonna come back to them, I'm not sure it's something I want to continue forward at this point. Then we have more to-do lists, what I want to do. Generally just silly things. Drawing people around me in different ways, seeing the different ways layering can be used to mask and distort an image and make it more interesting. And if the pieces are mobile, that option of interaction to see what people do with it, I thought was really interesting, and I love the idea of interaction, so that really stuck with me, and I thoroughly enjoy doing bits of work that actually go together but are separate, which is also where this came in. I, at this point, knew I wanted to draw people around me and people that I had different boundaries with. This is a close friend of mine on the course, and this was all part of one portrait that I had done in slightly different styles in the same face, and I decided that it looked better cut apart. I don't know if this is relevant, but I'm telling you everything. And then we have more essays that I've read, more of the annotations, thinking about boundaries, and this is all just thoughts about boundaries, really, about how we as people like to see patterns and create rules. Rules help our society function. They are something we are taught is good and that we shouldn't break. So whenever we're put in situations when we don't know anyone, our immediate reaction is to be like, okay, these are the rules, this is how I behave. I really hope my writing is legible. Oh. This is more ideas of rules and kind of how we go around interacting with each other. I took a trip to Saudi Arabia with work, and it was really very odd, and I wasn't allowed to touch my friends or hug anyone because that's just not their culture, and I had to stop myself and restrain myself from doing so. And I had never realised how much I actually come into contact with my friends, and I really, I guess, relish the act of touch. It sounds so silly when you say it now, but looking back at what I was talking about and the current situation, it is annoyingly, but also quite interestingly, ridiculously current. We've never, as a nation or a society, or just in general the world, really thought about how much we come into contact with one another, and how much just touching someone is just nice. Like, I feel a lot of people are touch-starved right now. They don't know how to act. You're not supposed to touch anyone, and it's so hard for us to get used to. But that's how other people live. You don't touch. And it was just really interesting to look into, and it is definitely something I want to make further projects on and delve into deeper and look into the cultural reasons and everything of that. But I very early on, as I was looking into it, decided that that would be far too much to add on to this project. This already had a mind of its own and was too in-depth to add on lots of different cultural meanings, unless that is what somebody wants to take from it, because I do end up leaving the vagueness that I started the project with at the end, because I feel it's very important for everyone to have their own say about what artwork is about. I dislike when you are told what it's about. Again, this is another review of an essay by an artist. And then here we have an artist talk I went to. So we went to the Tendency Towards talk, whom are alumni of Gray's, and they are they're not a collective, but they are a collective, artist-led organisation. And these are all of the notes I took from visiting. I did find it slightly disappointing. They seem to have really lost their drive, and from what we saw, they work much better creating and producing other people's work, which in a way is wonderful if that's what they want to do, but seeing them try and produce their own work as a collective after uni was really disheartening. We went into it thinking that it would really inspire us, and what it actually did was really worry us. I'm saying us as if you know who we're on about, and just me and a couple of the people I collaborate with later on. Actually, my dancers are people I work with in my course, so I was sharing a lot of my thoughts and feelings to them, and they have influenced my project so very much. This is my review of the talk. Again, I'll try and keep the camera still. More annotations and essays and different things, and then a review of said essay. And then again, another essay. I really felt that it was very important for me to actually look into the different ways in which humans have been known to interact and how we want to interact with art, because there's only so much guessing I can do before I have to back it up with actual context and actual research. And observing would come much later in my practice, because I didn't actually have anything to present or speak to people about, so I had to go into research, and reading through essays has really helped me justify a lot of the way I think, because it has been researched and it has been looked into, and people have written essays that have been published, and it has made me feel a lot more secure within my practice. Not only because I now know lots of other people's opinions and I feel more educated on it, but because I know that I'm not the only one that thinks this way, which, quite frankly, whenever I try and describe my artwork, it feels like I am a lot, because I know I'm not the best. And then this sketchbook actually flips upside down and is just different notes from different lectures and seminars that I have been to, people I didn't like so much, and notes. I lose sketchbooks if I try and have lots. Clearly I draw a lot, but flipping my sketchbook I found worked really well because I actually kept track of them, and I was doing this fun embellish thing, but that quickly stopped. Other sketchbooks will come in part 2 and 3.